One of the most evil, vile criminals to ever exist. David Carrick. Disturbing video. Link will be in the description. My links are too. I'm live every day on Twitch. Twitchy. 3 Ys like this, right?
This case takes place in the UK and spans from 2003 to 2020. The cases of Reinhard Sinaga and
It takes place in
This case takes place in the UK and spans from
UK
2003 to
2003 to 2020.
The cases of Reinhard Sinaga and Joseph McCann stand out for their sheer brutality and their manipulation of an intimate nature. These cases were branded as extreme and rare. As a result of their crimes, new methods of assessing SA offences were defined, and the term "on a scale of extreme gravity" was created.
What?
When it seemed the public had seen the worst, another name emerged, shocking the nation. But this wasn't just any predator. This was a man who wore a uniform of trust and authority. That man was David Carrick. David was born on the 4th of January 1975 in Salisbury, England. His father was a veteran, so the family lived on an army base. During his school years, David developed a passion for martial arts, earning a black belt in Taekwondo. His family often went to tournaments to watch him compete. According to David, his father was a drunk, and as a result, David suffered physical attacks from his father. Although, interestingly, this is something that his mother denies. His parents separated during his teenage years, and his mother Jean entered into a new relationship. David would later claim that he was also beaten by his stepfather, but again, his mother denies these claims. David's mother Jean described David as not.
His mom got into a new relationship, and his stepfather of that relationship was beating him. He's like, "Mommy, your husband is whooping me." She's like, "No, he ain't. Quit crying."
Normalish during his upbringing and doing fairly well at school, and one of his old school friends later revealed that he was a cool kid at school with lots of friends. According to this friend, he was good at everything. He was smart and sporty, and was good looking. Because of this, he was sought after by the girls and had many girlfriends as a teenager. His mother later said that he used to bring girlfriends back to their house all the time, and he changed his partners so many times that his mother stopped getting to know them. Another school friend would also come forward and mentioned how David was also horrible and disrespectful towards women. Things were normal for David until one day
that boy had the misogyny on lock. Level 100 misogynist.
He had a serious allegation made against him. Now, the specific details of this allegation are not exactly clear, nor is it public knowledge. However, this allegation was made by his own mother, suggesting that it may have been an essay that she had overheard. His mother reported it to the police, but there was no charge or conviction. It was said that after this allegation...
What? His own mother snitched on the police, and the police pulled up. They're like, "Yeah, we ain't find nothing to be wrong in this case. Yeah, you false reports.
David changed and became more withdrawn from his family. David also had a number of siblings. His younger half-brother also recalled that David used to kick him on a regular basis and was generally quite unpleasant to him. This was a relationship that only deteriorated further into adulthood. In 1994, when David was 19 years old, he decided to follow in his father's footsteps and he joined the military. He joined the British Army and served in the Gloucestershire, Berkshire and Wiltshire Regiment. His mother stated that he always wanted to join the military to travel and to have a gun. Later in 1997,
to have a gun? This man is a menace.
He joined the Royal Logistics Corps before ending his career. David left the British Army under circumstances that remain somewhat unclear. Reports suggest that his departure was not due to any formal disciplinary action, but rather that he did not re-enlist after his initial service period. Around the same time in the year 2000, David was alleged to have sent malicious communications to a partner. This partner had intended to leave him, and later on into the year, he was accused of burglary. This was the second serious allegation known by the police, but despite these serious allegations, he was not arrested, and no further action was taken.
So he got SA allegations, burglary allegations, and I think they said stalking too. And the police are just like, "Hey man, we don't got no evidence. Even though we got multiple people saying, this occurred, there's no evidence. We're gonna have to let him off the hook."
Against him at the time. In August of 2001, at the age of 26, David joined the Metropolitan Police Force. Perhaps he now had a taste for the authority that came with a uniform. Despite the previous allegations made against him, he was hired, and he went on to take the oath required for any new constable, which is, Despite the previous allegations made against him, he was hired, and he went on to take the oath required.
No, I didn't see.
Now had a taste for the authority that came with a uniform. Despite the previous allegations made for any caused the persons and properties of.
I don't know what position he got hired for, but getting hired to the police after those allegations are made against you is crazy.
Her Majesty's subjects. However, this was an oath that David had no trouble breaking. After completing his training, he began his career as a response officer based in.
Oh, GG. That man started pulling up to the first aid responses, roping on women.
Merton, which is located in southwest London. He later advanced to becoming an armed officer in the Specialist Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Command, where he encountered high-profile figures, including former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. His career in the police stretched over 2 decades, but so too did his reign of terror. From 2003 to 2020, David committed some of the most heinous crimes against women, exploiting them with charm, power, and a predatory sense of false safety. The following events will refer to 12 victims by the pseudonyms assigned to them in the judiciary reports. David's despicable crimes against women began almost immediately after he joined the police, using his position of power to facilitate his crimes. David was working in Merton Borough when he met his first victim in a bar. She was a 20-year-old woman referred to as T. David invited her to a housewarming party at his flat, assuring her that he was the safest person she could be around because he was a police officer. Reassured by this, T agreed to accompany him. However, there was no party. T was confused when they walked into an empty flat, but this confusion.
You gotta turn around and you gotta run it. So you gotta run. There's no other way. He said, "Oh yeah, come to the crib. I'm throwing a party. I'm inviting like everybody from the bar. Everybody I think is cool. Pull up to the crib. We're throwing an after party." You pull up. The crib is empty. There's no furniture. There's nothing in there. You gotta run.
And turned to horror when David held her against her will for hours. During this time, David subjected her to a horrific ordeal. He forced himself upon her, using violence to restrain her. When she resisted, he put a replica gun to her head. At the time, T believed that this was a genuine gun. Subdued by the gun, T feared for her life. She froze and had to endure more abuse, as she was convinced that David would kill her if she did not comply. David aggressively bit her and beat her during the attack, leaving many marks and bruises. He forcibly dragged her from position to position, pulling on her hair and ripping it off of her scalp. Once David was done, he allowed her to leave his flat. T went straight to A&E. She was bleeding in the regions that David had been, and needed medical assistance. The woman appeared that she had been through some extremely traumatic abuse. However, the A&E nurse told her that the assault was done by a police officer, so this would likely not lead to any charges. She proceeded to explain that the odds were not in her favour, and told T.
What do you mean? This was done by officer. There's probably not gonna be anything done. We need to do something about this. You see what he did to me? What are we talking about right now?
That she should get on with her life, to explain that the odds were not in her favour, and told T that she should get on with her life.
The nurse told me I should get on with my life after enduring this.
And just try to forget about it. And so, that's what she tried to do. In spring of 2004, David began flirting with a fellow police officer within his team. She was known as M. M had taken a strong liking to David and decided that she would accompany him to his flat for some consensual intimacy. She was heading to his flat with the intention of conventional sex, but David had other things on his mind. He reached for the other orifice and M objected, saying that this was something that she didn't want to do. But David didn't listen. He then proceeded to force himself upon her in a painful, non-consensual way, rendering her feeling disheveled and
David, what do you got going on, man?
ashamed. M thought that she
You over here biting people. You got people coming over to your house consensually, and then want to start doing some crazy shit unconsensually.
couldn't even speak about this crime. The shame was too great. She told herself to toughen up and just move on. Despite thinking this, she did feel like a hypocrite in her position.
This is 2 for 2, of people saying we gotta tough it out, get over it. Nothing's gonna happen. This is a cop. It's 2 for 2.
Because in her professional life, she would often encourage victims of SA to be strong and brave, and to understand that there is no shame in being a victim. Yet, in her personal life, she struggled with these very feelings for years to come, but she would eventually tell her story. In 2004, an allegation was made against David. News reports state that he had essayed a woman in his flat. This time, the Metropolitan Police were made aware of the incident. However, no arrest was made, and there was no internal investigation with the Metropolitan Police Force. By the
So somebody comes out, they say, your officer, David, he sexually harassed me. We got multiple people coming out saying this, actually. I don't know if it was multiple people, I'm just saying. There isn't no internal affairs, nothing. They do no investigation at all. El Police Force.
Year 2005, David had completed his domestic abuse training at the Metropolitan Police Service. If he had a fraction of morality left, he would not take his cruel abuse towards women any further. But he did. In the year 2008, David met a woman known as F. F was working as a barmaid and was 20 years old. David was 12 years her senior when they began a relationship. Eventually, F became a police officer too, and the couple purchased a £160,000 two-storey house together. David was her first serious partner, and he betrayed her trust by subjecting her to repeated abuse. This included assaults. F felt trapped and powerless, believing that no one would believe her if she decided to disclose the abuse, not even her police colleagues. Then, she finally summoned the courage to leave David. When she did this, he responded with further intimidation. He picked up a knife and began slashing her work shirts. This act of destruction seemed intended to cause her additional distress and
oh nah. She said she was about to go tell people what's going on. She wanted to get out of here. This man said, oh nah. He picked up the knife. He picked up the knife. He started going. All her shirts getting ripped up. Straight through the shirt. He ripping all of them.
and potential trouble in her professional life. It was around this time that David rekindled a friendship with an old friend. The two started hanging out, and it became apparent that David was partial to a large amount of alcohol. This friend said that David would drink a lot and he could become incredibly nasty. Being a police officer, He would start arguments with people when he was out and would throw his weight around. He would even flash his police identification card to intimidate others. He was a bully.
That don't
and
sound like
a
something you can do.
manipulator. It wouldn't be long before he found his next victim. In 2009, David moved to a different police department to become an officer in the Diplomatic Protection Group. In this role, he would routinely hold a firearm and protect buildings such as 10 Downing Street. Whilst he was protecting the political elite at
You
work,
can tell David
at
got
home,
something up
he was
about
working on his next victim. This victim is known as S. David met S at his martial arts class. One evening after
That was the third victim. We got number 4 right here. The third one ain't say nothing. She was going to. Ain't say nothing yet.
socializing
number 4.
and drinking together, he used his charm to persuade S to come
3
back
for
to
3.
his
Ain't
house.
nobody say nothing.
S was expecting a mutually consensual interaction, a typical hookup. However, once they were both naked, David's demeanor changed dramatically. He became aggressive, rushing her and pinning her down to the bed. S was scared and confused, and unable to overcome his physical dominance. Before she knew it, David had turned her onto her front and attempted to penetrate her. Although David was impotent in this moment, and his failure made him incredibly angry. From this point onwards, whenever David saw S in public, he would hurl abuse.
He was impotent in this moment, and his failure would make him angry. Does that mean what I'm thinking it means? It can't be.
Abuse at her and continue to harass her. Like many other women, S felt that she couldn't make a formal complaint, believing that it would go nowhere because David was a police officer. David's next victim was a woman named D, who he met at the martial arts club. David
Dude, all of them just they didn't even think to make a report just because he was an officer. They're like, yeah, he's an officer. I don't think this report is gonna go anywhere. It's 4 for 4 right now. Number 5 right here.
David and D went out for drinks, and this time he played the role of a comforting shoulder to cry on. When D became upset, David took advantage of the situation. Instead of taking her home or putting her in a taxi, he brought her back to his place. Dee was not interested in a casual relationship with David, and she made this very clear. But this didn't stop him.
Oh no.
Once they were alone, David got naked and forced his fingers inside of her, disregarding her feelings and boundaries. In the year
They said she was out drinking, and he after a breakup or something, this man he pulled up to the bar. He's like, "Oh, you having a bad day? You know, come, I can be your shoulder to lean on." This man's like, "Oh, I'm sorry to hear that." Just for him, whenever he's like, "Oh, I'll take you home." This man did not take her home. He took her back to his house and decided to be a freaky ass Nick.
year 2009, David's old school held a reunion for the students. During this reunion, David became familiar with a married woman referred to as N. After a night of socializing, David
Was that number 5, or is this not?
N
I'm losing
and
count.
another woman shared a room. N regarded David as a friend, and she thought it would be harmless to share a bed
like
with
6 or-
him
this is like
as they
6
were
or 7.
friends. Because David was
I
a
don't
police
even know, I done
officer,
lost count.
and because she was married, she expected him to be respectful. She was expecting
Hold up. Where's the side of his glasses? How are his glasses standing on his head right now? I don't see nothing going to his ears. How are they on his head? This don't make no sense. So somebody let me know how this makes sense, bro. I don't see nothing right here going around his ear. You know, glasses they be having like they got this on the side. It goes around your ear, right? Where is that?
nothing inappropriate to happen.
This man got Bluetooth glasses.
However, as she lay in bed, N was surprised when David began making advances on her. Without warning, he began touching her in her intimate areas. N recoiled in horror and denied him access, but David persisted. Feeling increasingly uncomfortable, she moved across the room to share a bed with her other female friend. But again, David was not deterred. He swiftly grabbed Em and dragged her back to his bed, whispering in her ear, "This will be our little secret."
Stop it.
He then forced himself upon her, assaulting her with his fingers.
Oh hell nah, bruh. He after she said, I don't want to do this, and literally like ran away. He dragged her back over and whispered in her ear. He was like, "This will be your little secret." And then continued.
Fingers and attempting to do the same with his genitals. However, he was unsuccessful. This encounter left N feeling shocked and violated, a painful betrayal from someone who she considered a close friend. Following this, it took David some time before he committed another crime, according to the official records. In 2015, David got back in contact with an old friend referred to as K. David attempted to allure K by flaunting his job in the Metropolitan Police Force, a position that many believed symbolized integrity and came with good pay. This approach worked, as Kay initially saw him as a trustworthy figure due to his job. They eventually had a consensual encounter, but it quickly turned when David decided that he wanted to penetrate her in a different manner. Despite her refusals, David ignored her objections and forced his will upon her. Kay complained of agonizing pain during the assault, but David continued. The physical and emotional trauma left Kay in tremendous pain for days afterwards. The following year, in 2016, David entered a 6-month relationship with a woman referred to as B. During this time, he became...
I don't even know what number we're at right now. We're pushing 10 people. How has there been no investigations on this man David yet?
Coercive and controlling. The two had met through a dating app when B was in a vulnerable state. She was caught in an unhappy marriage. According to those who knew him, David had an immense charm and quickly persuaded her to move in with him. Again,
immense charm.
Reassuring her of his status as a police officer, in an effort to bring her into his...
What's charming about him? The slightly crooked nose, the Duke Dennis no eyebrows.
His reach. He even offered to pay her £1,000 a month if she agreed to be his quote, slut. B accepted this offer, but she also had a daughter. The daughter was only 10. They were forced to watch their mother being abused.
Again, bro, how are these glasses sitting on his head, bro? There's no side of it, bro.
From most of her friends and family, isolating her to exert greater control.
Yeah, voodoo glasses.
B would work from home, and he monitored her while she was at work, using a camera he had installed at home. He even imposed strict weight restrictions on B, dictating what she could and could not eat. This led to a drastic change in her...
This man was basically being like the Chinese idol people, the managers. They're like, if you go over this weight, you're getting cut from the team. What is he? Oh nah.
Her appearance, and she dropped from a size 14 to a size 6 within just a few months. In one particularly cruel incident, David forced B to have anal sex shortly after she had undergone surgery to remove hemorrhoids. Despite being in immense pain.
Hold up, bro. I wish I could get hit with the Men in Black flash stick, bro. What the fuck was that?
Pain and resisting, David was in a violent and angry mood. He went ahead with the act anyway, causing her severe injury. B's own daughter overheard her mother being essayed on numerous occasions. By the time that B finally escaped David's grip, she was left deeply traumatized, and struggled for years with her mental health. David's next controlling and coercive relationship spanned from March of 2017 to January of 2019. His next victim
how is he
was
still
referred
going?
to as Jay. He met Jay in a bar whilst socialising with other police officers. The relationship progressed quickly as David initially wooed her with his charm. However, his charm soon gave way to manipulation and control. Like many before her, Jay was reassured by David's position as a police officer. He exploited her trust and dominated every aspect of her life. David controlled who Jay saw, what she...
Bro, I'm telling you, brother, what's up with his nose? Because in the other picture, his nose was bending one way. In this picture, it's bending the other way. So what's really going on here?
Did, what she ate, and what she wore. He would frequently threaten her and call her all manner of derogatory names. His threats were reinforced by his police authority. He once menacingly threatened her with a police baton and sent her a photograph of his firearm from work with the message, "Remember, I am the boss."
Oh hell nah, bro.
Send this picture
to the police, bro. What are we talking about?
David belittled her position and people with mental health issues. He even went as far as to prevent her from seeing her son for a whole year. David tracked Jay's movements using a camera he had installed in their home, even speaking to her through it. David was incredibly sexually aggressive towards Jay and repeatedly essayed her multiple times. These assaults were so violent that she frequently experienced bleeding. One of the most harrowing examples of his cruelty was when he would shut her in a small cupboard underneath the stairs naked as a form of punishment. Even when she was in the middle of a panic attack, David showed no mercy, leaving her confined in the dark enclosed space for hours at a time.
He basically put her in the storage closet. That's crazy.
He would stand outside and torment her by whistling and taunting.
Oh nah, he put her in the storage closet, locked the door, it's all black in there. Now all you hear. Oh hell nah, bruh.
Enjoying the distress that he was causing her. He would even sometimes use police-issued handcuffs to restrain her during these assaults and would whip her, leaving cuts on her body. When Jay finally escaped from David, she took this whip and used it as her evidence. She hoped to protect other women from suffering the same fate as she had. But...
was that a whip of beads?
She would have to endure more punishment before that day would come. On one occasion, David forced himself upon Jay via the rear in a tent whilst they were on holiday. This cruel crime was only compounded by the fact her parents occupied the tent next to theirs. He covered her mouth to silence her, but her father did hear some distressing sounds. Jay's father came by to check if Jay was alright, but she was unable to cry out for help. David's abuse extended beyond physical violence. He
Wait. What?
Rear in a tent whilst they were on holiday. This cruel crime happened before that day would come. On one occasion, David forced himself upon Jay via the rear in a tent whilst they were on holiday. This cruel crime was only compounded by the fact her parents occupied the tent next to theirs. He covered her mouth to silence her, but her father...
So did they go out camping? Bro, he like stalked her or something? He got air tag on her car or something? Then he followed her to the tent, to the campsite. They had two tents, one for the parents, one for her. He hopped up in her tent and covered her mouth up and started raping her.
Father did hear some distressing sounds. Jay's father came by to check if Jay was alright, but she was unable to cry out for help. David's abuse extended beyond physical violence. He also gained excitement from urinating on her and into her mouth, forcing
R. Kelly!
Jay to swallow it. She even contracted an STD from him. He would send her
fuck no, bruh.
Threatening messages and expressed that he wanted to piss on her grave. His relentless psychological torment destroyed her ability to work and eroded her sense of self. He repeatedly drilled into her that he was the police and that he owned her. This made her believe that reporting his behavior and crimes would be futile and that she wouldn't be believed. She lived in constant fear of becoming a target, which prevented her from speaking out. She would finally gain the confidence to come forward and share her experiences, hoping to hold him accountable for the horrific crimes she had to endure. But tragically, David made more women victims before that day would come. Overlapping with David's abuse
There's no
of
way there's
Jay
more.
was a relationship with a woman named P.
Bro, how many victims does this guy have? I swear we're already at 10. We gotta be at 10 already.
And an assault on a woman known as W. Sounds confusing, but bear with me. First, David met W through a dating app in July of 2018. W was a cleaner, and David initially told her that he wanted her to clean for him. He also mentioned to her that he was a police officer, and claimed to have conducted a police force check on her, which made her trust him more because of his position. On one occasion, while she was cleaning David's shower, David got naked and attacked her. He forced his genitals into her mouth, causing her to be sick.
Well, he got all his...
Around this same time, he met a woman named P on a dating app. She was a vulnerable woman with a mild learning disability, anxiety, and depression. And of course, David used his position again as an armed police officer to exploit her. But first, he was funny, nice, and charming, especially when she came over to clean for him. However, when under the influence of alcohol, David's demeanor changed drastically, revealing his monstrous side. Despite this, P was eager to please him, so over time, she became a slave, a term which David used to describe her to degrade her. Again, David orally essayed P on at least 3 occasions, causing her to vomit. This was something that excited him greatly. On other occasions, he would urinate.
Bro, after this video, I need the Men in Black, I need the flash, bro. What the fuck is this?
Into her mouth and all over her body. David would also insert large objects into her body, something which caused her immense pain. Some of the things that David did are even hard to describe. But on one occasion, as he inserted an object inside her, he shoved her into the shower, proceeded to urinate on her until she vomited because she was so distressed.
What the
David is truly one of the most despicable people I have ever covered on the channel. In February of 2020, David met a woman known as F through a dating site. And by March of that very same year, she had moved in with him. And of course, F believed that David was trustworthy due to him being a police officer, but he soon changed. F was an immigrant, and she became fearful of David because of his aggression and because of his threats to report her to immigration authorities. The first time David essayed her, she cried out in pain and begged him to stop. David became so violent that she too began to bleed. He dismissed her suffering, telling her that she was making a fuss. Despite her clear objections on each occasion, David ignored her protests and overpowered her. And just like he had done before, he forced his genitals into her mouth, causing...
Bro, this is like five, 6 in a row he done this. She's gonna get sick too?
her to vomit and...
What the fuck is up with this man's meat, bro? He got radioactive meat, bro. Why everybody who even they sucking his meat, even though it's unconsensually, why the fuck everybody throwing up after sucking his meat, bro? What the fuck is this?
urinated into her mouth and on her body. F managed to escape his clutches in July of 2020. These were the 12 victims known as the ones who bravely stood up to David in the court of law. They were known as T, M, F, S, P, N, K, B, J, W, P, and
Wait. Those are all...
court of law.
How many people?
They were known as T, M, F, S, P, N, K, B, J, W, P, and F. However,
12
the
people.
allegations that landed him in the spotlight was made by another woman. This woman was not named, and the details were not committed.
There's more
to
than
the record.
12.
David was arrested on the 3rd of October 2021. Body camera footage shows the interaction at the point of arrest.
These are the necessities that I've just explained to you.
No
Therefore,
necessities, what I keep going.
well, that's one of three, one of four. So, okay. Well, I'll allow you
What
to
is it you're
get
searching
some
for here?
clothes
What is it you're searching for?
Articles
For,
relating to the
that
offences.
happened in St Albans.
in 2020. This is the allegation that's been made to us. Okay, sir.
There's no necessity.
Yes, there is.
So I've only been a police officer for 20 years.
Right, David.
Do you want me to come naked like this?
No, just understand you're under arrest.
I know
Okay.
I'm under
Just
arrest.
explain to us what do you need.
I'll pull out like this. Don't
Right.
worry about it.
Can one of my colleagues go and get you stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you wanna? Yeah.
Which one's yours?
The back one.
Okay.
This nigga David's sick.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Where are your keys? Then we'll bring those at least.
12 plus
The
people.
arrest was publicised due to his position in the police force. The 12 victims came forward. In all likelihood, there are many, many more victims, too afraid or too ashamed to come forward. Once these victims came forward, David was charged with these crimes too. David had numerous hearings from December of 2021 until January of 2023, where he pleaded not guilty to the charges. Between 2003 and his arrest,
You better
he
been
caused
found guilty.
long-lasting psychological harm to the women he abused. The emotions they have endured, like denial, anger, hatred, shame, betrayal, self-blame, and the fear of being labelled as victims, are deeply rooted and difficult to overcome. David has shaped their lives in profoundly damaging ways, depriving them of the ability to trust men and form healthy relationships. These women now struggle with damaged mental health and experience immense loneliness. They continue to question their own judgment and have lost trust in the police. All the while, David shows no remorse for his actions. During the trial and the hearings, he presented that he had a terrible childhood, but this was
Terrible childhood. Fuck is that supposed to mean? There's plenty of people who had terrible childhoods, and they aren't doing what you're doing.
to no avail.
You did this to 12 plus people.
And not only this, he had several aggravating features of his offences. To name a couple, he repeatedly essayed people who were unwell and unwilling, and would use deliberate and sustained humiliation tactics.
Unweller.
During the hearing period between July of 2022 and December of 2022, he was committed to Rampton Secure Hospital as he had tried to end it. He used a razor-sharp blade and made several cuts to his neck and groin. Once he had recovered, he underwent a
Buddy used a razor blade trying to cut his neck. Buddy, do you not know the place where they say to do it? What are you trying to do? I don't think that the neck is the right place for trying to do that with a razor blade. If you really wanted to go out, you would have went out.
psychiatric assessment, which concluded
He should be taken out though. I can't lie.
that he was not suffering from a mental disorder. His attempt at unaliving was just self-pity. It was not remorse or regret for his actions, and he soon
Under the jail. Same treatment as people who do stuff to little kids.
returned to HMP Belmarsh for sentencing. The prosecution was seeking a full life sentence, something that is quite rare in the United Kingdom. The judge deliberated over cases
Yeah, give
such
him
as
the
the
life- give
Wayne
him life,
Cousins
bro.
case, where a Metropolitan Police officer killed a woman named Sarah Everard. The judge also looked
Who are
at the
these pictures
cases
of right now?
Reinhard Senaga and Joseph McCann. In the end, the
don't
judge
even know.
settled on not inflicting
guess
a
him?
whole life sentence, but a sentence similar to Sanaga and McCann. David Carrick was convicted of 41 crimes, totaling 36 life sentences with a minimum term of 30 years and 239 days.
A minimum of 30 years? Oh nah, bro. We need a minimum of life, bro. What are you talking about?
41 crimes, totaling 36 life sentences.
36 life sentences. I hope it's 30 years to life on all the life sentences.
With a minimum term of 30 years.
A minimum term of 30 years on every single one of these life sentences.
And 239 days. The police are here to protect, but they have failed this primary objective several times. In response, the Labour government of the United Kingdom has pledged to introduce new national standards for police vetting, recognising the deep-rooted issues within the force. I have read and presented many true crime cases over the years. This case left me feeling physically sick. It is obvious why...
Yeah, this is disgusting. I don't know how... It was like the first... It was within the first 5 victims that somebody was like... They went to the police and they literally made a report. And it just didn't go anywhere. And then after that, he ended up getting hired to the police force. The same police that they got reported on that he did this before. And he just continued doing this for like 13 years while working for them.
David joined the police, and for a person in a position of power to commit such vile acts is truly despicable. Hopefully, David remains where he belongs, in prison for the...
Under it. They need to expedite the life sentence. Give him the shot, whatever. Put him in the sewers under the jail.